The movie kicks off by introducing us to Thomas Dunn, a young boy deeply engrossed in a heroic film alongside his brother. The hero in the movie, a half-man, half-robot, is on a mission to thwart an alien invasion, captivating Thomas with his extraordinary abilities. Later that day, Thomas and his pals engage in imaginative play, with Thomas eagerly taking on the role of the hero, leading his friends in a quest to save the world. Returning home, Thomas and his brother discover their father in the garage, where Thomas shares a special bond with him. His father, believing in Thomas's potential, bestows upon him a bracelet before returning to fixing a car with an oil leak. Trusting his son, the father continues his task as the scene transitions to years later. As time passes, Thomas has grown into a man and is now married to Mandy, who works as an elementary school teacher. Mandy discovers she's pregnant through a urine test, but hasn't shared the news with her husband yet. Meanwhile, Thomas cherishes the bracelet his father gave him, wearing it as a token of their bond. Before leaving for work, Mandy surprises Thomas with the news of her pregnancy, filling him with joy as they embrace. The couple's happiness is tinged with sorrow as they reminisce about their late daughter, Rebecca, whose passing left them disillusioned and bereft of hope. Despite their loss, the prospect of a new life brings a glimmer of optimism. As Thomas sets off for work, Mandy heads to her school, while Thomas makes a detour to visit his daughter, Rebecca's grave at the cemetery. Amidst his grief, he notices planes passing overhead, but doesn't give them much thought. Shortly after, Thomas's father, who has been a source of support for the family during tough times, arrives. Thomas excitedly shares the news of Mandy's pregnancy, expressing hope for a brighter future. His father shares in his happiness, but suddenly, Thomas is overcome by an eerie sensation, sending chills down his spine. He scans his surroundings and notices a woman crying nearby in the cemetery. Then an apocalyptic vision unfolds before him, depicting the destruction of the city. Meanwhile, at the school where Mandy teaches, the students also witness the surreal transformation of the skies, though they are not as disturbed as Thomas. As the vision subsides, Thomas realizes he alone experienced it. The woman at the cemetery remains unaware, lost in her grief. However, Thomas's father is visibly shaken by what he has witnessed. Thomas rushes to the church, seeking solace and repentance beneath the portrait of the Lord. Back at the school, the children cry out in fear as the skies shift, prompting Mandy to reassure and comfort them, though her assistant and friend remain puzzled by the sudden distress. Despite their confusion, they assist Mandy in calming the children. Meanwhile, Thomas heads to work at a mental institution where he serves as a doctor. Upon arrival, his assistant greets him, and he begins his rounds with the patients. He encounters Harriet first, who struggles with past traumas, manifesting in trust issues. Though not outwardly disturbed, her struggles are evident. Next, Thomas attends to Floyd, a schizophrenic patient who momentarily becomes agitated, mimicking a gun with a banana. Thomas soothes him and guides him to the TV room, where Floyd settles down to watch cartoons. In another room, Thomas meets Claire, a drug addict and talented artist. He notices her recent painting, which seems to depict an apocalyptic explosion. When Thomas tries to communicate with her about the painting, Claire remains silent, refusing to engage. Later in the day, tragic news spreads across the TV as several individuals claim to have witnessed the same apocalyptic vision experienced by Thomas earlier. However, only a handful of people provide testimonials, leaving uncertainty among the population. Meanwhile, back at the mental institution, Kellogg presents her painting to Thomas, suggesting it was a prophetic vision. Troubled by the events unfolding, Thomas contacts Mandy, suggesting they leave the city for a while to escape the unsettling atmosphere. Unbeknownst to Thomas, Mandy is preoccupied with the drawings made by her students, many of which depict scenes of destruction. Lost in her concern, she rushes outside, missing Thomas's call. Back at the hospital, Thomas witnesses people staring at an invisible spaceship materializing in the sky. Reacting quickly, he guides the patients to flee the compound in search of safety. As they rush towards the exit, a spaceship suddenly emerges and opens fire, catching them off guard. Desperately, they attempt to evade the onslaught, but they find themselves trapped at a dead end. The spaceship's rays strike down all except Thomas, who remains unharmed. The spaceship ensnares its victims within a shell attached to its hull, abducting them one by one. Thomas is captured and drawn into one of the shells as the spaceship hurtles into space. They arrive at a colossal alien space base where Thomas, along with other captured humans, is transported through a vibrant, surreal tunnel. Overwhelmed, Thomas succumbs to unconsciousness as he traverses the mysterious passage. The scene changes and Thomas wakes up suddenly as a phone rings beside him. Alarmed, he hears a fire alarm blaring throughout the building. Rushing downstairs, he discovers chaos unfolding as Harriet pleads with Floyd, who is now wielding a real gun and threatening everyone. Despite Thomas's attempts to intervene, he is pulled into a colorful tunnel, still part of his strange visions. In this vision, Thomas finds himself in a world overrun by zombies. He seeks refuge in a mall with other survivors, but their safety is short-lived as the zombies break in, attacking and biting the others. The hallucinations continue, with Thomas experiencing different scenarios, including one where he is portrayed as an abuser facing severe consequences from his patients. As the visions momentarily fade, Thomas glimpses the interior of the giant spaceship, which is now exploding. His shell is thrown into an ocean on another planet, and the ship in the sky is destroyed. Thomas, bewildered by the turn of events, makes his way to the shore where he encounters the others, who also seem to have arrived there. Strangely, they all claim to have been miraculously healed of their addictions and traumas. It becomes evident that they too had experienced the same apocalyptic visions while traveling through the tunnel, albeit with different outcomes. Even Floyd, who previously struggled with severe mental illness, now expresses a sense of clarity and well-being. As they watch the ship burn and parts of it crash onto the land, the group reflects on their shared experiences. Suddenly, Claire recalls being in a cinema, witnessing the same zombie apocalypse that Thomas had experienced. In that moment, she takes some pills and is subsequently expelled by security. Sitting outside the cinema, she has a moment of realization about her addiction and makes a firm decision to break free from it, determined to lead a normal life. Back in the present moment, Claire shares that she too feels healed from her addiction, attributing it to the transformative experience they all had in the tunnel. As they observe the fragmented spaceship in the desert, they contemplate approaching it. However, before they can decide, Harriet makes a shocking confession. She reveals that she harbored deep-seated hatred towards men due to a traumatic childhood experience. Flashbacks haunt her, recalling her father's violent intrusion into their home, resulting in the assault of her mother and the subsequent trauma inflicted upon her. In a harrowing revelation, Harriet confesses to her traumatic experience by metaphorically amputating Tom's genitals. Like the others, Harriet claims to have confronted and come to terms with her long-held grief and anger towards men, feeling healed from her past trauma. Tom is left stunned by Harriet's revelation, yet he remains silent about his own experiences. When they ask him, Tom changes the subject and says they need to focus on getting the patients back home safely. He believes that patients can't get better right away, which not everyone agrees with. The three friends sadly decide not to join Tom and prefer staying where they are. So Tom rushes to the cliff to look below and sees only a dangerous ocean. The planet is still under attack by the small ships. Tom decides to jump on one of them because he thinks it might take him to the big spaceship in the middle of the ocean. With the help of the small ship, Tom reaches the giant spaceship and lands safely. He brings the others along, who were also delivered in shells like him. They all get out, and Tom finds a gun on the ship, which he gives to Floyd. However, another ship arrives and starts shooting at them with the same ray as before. This time, they fight back and use their weapons to defend themselves. While distracted and engaged in conversation, Tom is accidentally shot, causing him to slip and fall. As he falls, he is engulfed by the visionary tunnel once again, reliving moments from his childhood. This time, he witnesses his younger self mimicking the hero he idolized from TV. However, the flashbacks take a dark turn as Tom's memories reveal a tragic incident from his past. It is revealed that after he and his younger brother left the garage that fateful day, the car their father was fixing fell on him, crushing his upper body. Despite their efforts to help, they were unable to lift the heavy car off their father in time, resulting in his untimely death right before their eyes. This traumatic event has haunted Tom, deeply affecting him throughout his life. Confronting this painful memory, Tom finally wakes up to reality, only to find that the ship has once again abducted them and placed everyone back in their shells, trapped within the confines of the mysterious vessel. When Tom wakes up, he finds Harriet awake too, and he tells her about his experience with the group. After some time on the ship, they finally see light as it exposes and sets them free from their shells. Although they're still on the giant ship, they're now able to move around. Tom looks at Earth from a distance and realizes he can't go back home. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the news is talking about the strange ship-like objects in the sky. NASA has sent astronomers to investigate. Soon, we see astronauts in space trying to figure out what's going on. To their surprise, they spot the gigantic alien spaceship hovering over Earth. As the news announces the sighting of the gigantic alien spaceship and urges people to stay indoors, a horrifying nuclear explosion rocks half of New York City. From their vantage point in space, the group witnesses the devastation unfold, though details are scarce at the moment. The scene then shifts to Mandy, who watches in shock as news of the explosion in Manhattan spreads, revealing the city's destruction. Troubled, she decides to check her voicemail and hears Tom's message. Desperate to reach him, she attempts to call back, but her city is suddenly invaded by numerous alien ships. The government mobilizes its military forces to defend the city, but the sheer number of alien vessels overwhelms them. Hovering menacingly in the sky, the alien ships unleash their rays upon the fleeing populace, abducting those struck by the beams and encasing them within their shells. As chaos reigns on Earth, Mandy manages to hide behind a trash can, evading detection by the alien ships. It becomes evident that this is indeed an alien invasion, with people frantically fleeing for their lives while those unable to escape are abducted, yet strangely kept alive. Shortly after regaining a satellite signal, Tom contacts one of his friends on Earth. The satellite signal also streams the news being broadcasted on Earth. To Tom's shock, he realizes that countries have ordered a nuclear strike against all of North America, and the aliens are attempting to save them from the impending disaster. Quickly grasping the situation, Tom urges his friend to expose themselves to the aliens to be taken to safety. Initially hesitant, the man eventually agrees and spreads the word to others nearby about the nuclear threat. In a startling realization, Tom understands that humanity's true enemy is not the aliens but humanity itself. The creatures are here to rescue people from their own destruction, yet they are met with resistance. Determined to convince his fellow humans to accept the aliens' aid, Tom reaches out and communicates with one of the ships, offering his assistance in attempting to persuade others to accept salvation rather than face annihilation. Meanwhile, Mandy remains hidden, feeling scared for herself and her unborn baby. She cautiously wanders the streets, keeping to the shadows. Suddenly, a live broadcast fills the sky. It's Dr. Thomas Dunn, using a hologram from space to talk to people. He explains that the aliens want to save them from the disaster. Dr. Dunn warns that if they stay on Earth, the fighting will continue and many people will die. Hearing this, people begin to come out of hiding and allow themselves to be taken by the alien ship's rays. However, Mandy doesn't listen to the others and goes straight to the church, where she sees people gathering together, praying for the Lord's strength to get through the disaster instead of relying on the invaders. Even though she sees the community's faithfulness, she still feels uneasy. She visits Rebecca's grave, and while she's there, she gets a call from Tom. He asks her to join him over the sky, and he's waiting for her. But she says no, and she stays with her daughter as the explosion destroys the north side of the city. Tom hears her last words before she passes away. The film ends with the alien ships encasing thousands more people in their shells until they find a new home for them. Thanks for watching.